Hi, all. Welcome back to Sports Hub Video NFL's channel. This is we're got a little while next week till the Super Bowl, but I thought I'd just jump on because the news is going crazy. So we're hopefully going to have some interviews next week, looking for Rams fans, and of course we've got our great fans Jamie and Peter from the Bengals, who we'll definitely have back on before the Super Bowl. The only negotiation is whether they come on Friday, like they did last time, to see if they're going to win. But look, Super Bowl in just over a week's time. Everyone's super excited. It's going to be an amazing time. So for people that, again, are kind of generally new, Super Bowl being the finale of the season, the end of the playoffs, it is the most watched TV show out in the US. The NFL generally the most watched show out in the US. And the halftime show this year is Dr. Dre, Snoop, and a few others. It is going to be off the chain. So if nothing else, watch the halftime show. The adverts are normally quite cool, which is a funny thing to say, but hey, it's the Super Bowl. But anyway, in NFL news at the moment, NFL is kind of we've got a Pro Bowl coming up on Sunday, and they're doing skills competition as well, which should be quite fun. So NFL.com and the NFL content we've had on Sports Hub has been highlighting a lot of the old skills challenges they used to do. There was a pretty cool one with the quarterbacks that involved Tom Brady. I think Peyton was in it, and a few of the older names. And they showed how unathletic, how not very athletic they were, or probably still are. I'd love them to do the same thing now. I think with Josh Allen, with Lamar, with the athletes we have now playing quarterback, it would be amazing. But the big news, obviously, at the moment is some, should we call it infighting between the hiring process of the NFL on one side and the NFL owners on the other side. So we don't necessarily want to show too much opinion, but there is a general infight. I think one thing to say above everything else, there is a Rooney Rule in place. So the NFL in itself already understands that there's a problem in their hiring practices. You don't have a rule like that if you don't. In the same way as we have a seatbelt rule when we drive, therefore the governments around the world suggest that there is a problem if you don't wear a seatbelt and crash a car, regardless. So there's kind of that side, but it always flags up it's always an interesting thing that we talk about. We actually talk about every single year, because every single year head coaches are fired and new ones are hired, and there's always kind of a debate around that. And so at the moment, there's kind of that. But I think if you park that to one side, and if anyone really wants to me to get into it, then let me know, and I'll do a whole video on it. It's not a problem. And if you want to come on and debate me about it, I'll do that too. Really, it's the additional allegations. I'm genuinely going to park the Denver Broncos one, because I think they probably did turn up hammered, but not that I care. And I want to talk about the losing. I think it's always an unintended consequence. I'm a big fan of the draft. I'm actually a big fan of the way the draft works. Now, what I am not a fan of is a coach being asked to lose games. But I think it's very clear teams go out without the idea of trying to win the Super Bowl necessarily, where the argument is saying there was a salary cap, $150, $160 million, and you can divvy it up roughly as much as you want. Now, if you either A, never get anywhere near that, that's obviously one way to do it, and B, if you get rid of your high rollers and your experienced players and you play a load of young kids, then you could argue that you're not trying to win that season. You are trying to build a squad later on. It's the way people kind of work. I would say I generally don't like it. Not because I don't think teams should be allowed to do it. I think teams should be allowed to do what the hell they want. The reason why I don't like it is because I think losing breeds losing and winning breeds winning. If you are genuinely a winner and you apply the pressure of victory every week in, week out, you tend to find those people, those teams, that team ethic will genuinely find themselves above 500. And if you are a perennial loser, you go, well, why do they keep losing? Well, because they have a mental block to winning, because they think that they can get out of it. Young players improve quicker on winning teams or play better with winning players. in every team sport. I really would like to see ones where they don't. Now, what people sometimes might flash up is certain things around baseball, but again, um, that sometimes seems like it works, but more often than not, there are other moves that you put in place. That's why you go and get a veteran player in a certain position. That's why you might get a veteran center with a young quarterback. You you marry youth with experience as much as possible, and the NFL is an unreal place to do that. Um, if you have a young quarterback, you can have older receivers or an older running back. What you don't want is a green quarterback and a green running back, because that can sometimes spell problems. If you look at the Patriots this year, they kind of paired Mac Jones with a slightly older surrounding cast. Well, that made sense, and he flourished as much as we probably thought he could, or more than we thought he could. And he kind of did that. If you look at Patrick Mahomes, he sat a year behind and watched an older quarterback. But that team, if you think about it, he once he took over, whilst it looks like it was massively explosive once he took over, it was kind of explosive before, because they still had Hill, they still had Kelsey, they still had, at the time, a decent offensive line. And then they're able to add pieces around it. But if you flip it and look at maybe Trevor Lawrence, so Trevor Lawrence being highly touted, Andrew Luck probably the highest rated player coming out of the draft previously. You could argue maybe even only an Elway before that. So you're only talking about 2, 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks that you would ever talk about that in the way that people talk about Trevor Lawrence. But he really struggled. I luckily went to watch him in London, and I felt his struggle. But he had no. What did he have around him? The running back Robertson was decent, but he had drops, and it's a situation where if you don't watch the entire game, and none of us can, but if you can't watch the entire game, you kind of miss certain things, and 2 or 3 drops in the first half knocks confidence, and so that's why you try to pair players in different positions. You can have young receivers if you've got an older quarterback. It's a balancing act on your payroll, on your salary cap, but it's also a balancing act within your team ethos. Winning breeds winning. So the idea that a coach would be asked to lose, I just think if you think of the teams that we're kind of being talked about, that let's be honest, they're just not very good teams, and they haven't been very good for a long time. They have every now and then they have little ups, but the Browns haven't been very good, and there's an allegation against the Browns. The Dolphins haven't been very good. There's an allegation about the Dolphins. Let's be brutally honest with you. Matthew Stafford is 1 year out of Detroit, and he's going to the Super Bowl. So yes, he has a surrounding cast by him, but he had Megatron before. He had some players before, but the Lions are perennial losers in a sad way. And this is not a knock on the areas, but it's a knock on the team. So losing, I do believe losing breeds losing, and winning breeds winning. And if you bring a young player in who has a potential, if an all-time great is 100, has a potential to get to 80, regardless of where they're starting, you've got more chance of them hitting their 80 limit, their top limit, when they're taught how to play, when they're taught how to act. And this is more than just how to run a route or how to block or the technique of playing the game in individual positions. It's how to watch tape. It's how to eat. It's how to carry yourself, how to hold a press conference. And the reason why people go, well, really? Well, it is because, like in anything, if you have a really bad press conference and everyone's hammering you, it's just not nice. And so then, are you down? Are you more negative about yourself? And I think the best players you'll see exude confidence, and some of that may be put on, but confidence is what's really important. So it's an interesting dynamic, and we're really going to see where it goes. But I want to talk about some stuff we're going to do over the summer. I think, well, obviously, with the draft coming up, the draft's in LA, which is amazing. So obviously, I'm going to be looking out for it. The Raiders have a new head coach. I'll talk about that shortly. But look, I think we're in a really amazing place. We've got new content coming on all the time. We're able to bring in content from YouTube. So rather than going off to YouTube and looking around at what you might find, I think if you just come to our NFL or our American football page, then you'll be able to get everything all in one place and just be able to watch and consume and enjoy. And the more you kind of do that, the more we're able to attain feedback and kind of make changes. But you'll see stuff from the NFL, from ESPN, from Pro Football Talk, and the likes. And actually, if you are a league or a squad, who has some content that they kind of want to put into the melting pot on your YouTube page, then please let me know, and we can get it. And so fans and viewers can all go to one place. So come over. The link is in our Twitter bio, but if you go to sportshubvideo.com, you'll see NFL content all the time. You'll see American football content all the time. And if you click on call it the burger. If you click on the burger, you will see the NFL category. Always just have a little look. We'll obviously have a link, etc., on here. But like I say, the NFL is crazy at the moment. So we have the Super Bowl coming up. Pro Bowl is always kind of an off week. It's a family weekend for me. We have the Super Bowl, which is going to be crazy and off the chain. And then we move straight into the draft. So we're hoping to get more draft content. We'll obviously bring in draft content from external, but we're looking to create some draft content ourselves. So if you talk about the draft or you write about the draft and you want a platform to also talk about it, then I'm happy. Please get in contact with me at HV_NFL, and yeah, we'll set something up and we'll talk about it. We'll try and do it once a week, and if we get enough, then maybe twice a week. I would say, yeah, it's almost easier to interview someone. So let's have a look and see what we're going to do. And then just to finish off, everyone, most people that know me will probably ask how I feel about the Las Vegas Raiders and the hire. I think I'll start with negatives because I think there's probably there's two major negatives. Right, so one negative is that Josh McDaniels, the new head coach, used to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos, and it didn't quite go as well as they'd hope, obviously. So being a rival, very happy with that. I would just say second chances. Hopefully, it follows a kind of a Belichick lead, and his second chance is the one that he kind of fulfills. We as a Raiders fan and Raider Nation, we have to get behind the kind of new focus. The other negative, of course, is the perceived Patriot way hasn't necessarily been as successful as many times as they've been getting jobs, both in the front office of the GMs, obviously from the Patriots, and from a coaching perspective. But you could argue one has to work eventually. And actually, if you look in college, Kirby Smart, who's the Georgia head coach, was at Alabama. So, and I think that's the first time. Well, it's the first time certainly that one of Nick Saban's former coaches has come and beaten him and taken the kind of title off him. So it's happened. We obviously hope it happens again. But let's think about the positives. The Patriots do have a history of success, and again, you should look at people that are successful and try to bring some of that ethos over. It is good to get people from outside of the kind of maybe from Raider Nation and Raider history, and to produce maybe some new history. I actually do think there's a good positive in that. I think they're going to come with new ideas. Listen, the truth is that we're in a tough ass division. Patrick Mahomes will be back next year, bigger, better, and stronger. I don't think they were as we know, they weren't very far away from being on another Super Bowl third in a row. They were hosting the AFC Championship game for the fourth year in a row. So the idea of them going away is unfortunately not going to happen. And then if you look at Justin Herbert, he's probably maybe three coaching decisions away from being in the playoffs himself, and then you don't know what could have happened. And then the Denver Broncos actually have a very good squad. They just need that quarterback, and the rumors swirling around is Aaron Rodgers is eyeing them up as a destination place. The thing I would say is that to get him, they're going to have to use some draft capital. So, but Aaron is pretty good. But the Raiders are in a decent position. Derek Carr, I'd like to see him get a new contract. I think if he can negotiate Javonte Adams to come over, that would be amazing. I think we've got some building blocks. Renfro on offense, Waller. I think the offensive line needs some work. So I'd love us to be picking up draft picks and free agency on there. I think if you look on our defensive side, we all, we generally need a bit of everything. I still think we need some help in safety, and we definitely need cornerback after, of course, losing some players to some incidents. I think the front is really very solid, but you always need at least another one, someone to pass rush, someone to plug the hole, and you always need someone to tackle. So I think the draft's going to be really key. But there had been some mistakes on draft day. That said, good coaching can help. So if the coaches do what we need them to do, then players can improve and we can be in a stronger, better position. So we're going to have to see. The Patriots' way is possibly to trade down. I wouldn't be against us moving ourselves back into the second round and having a couple of bites at the cherry in the second round. I was reading something today that the Rams, people say the Rams just trade everything away, but they don't. I think they've over the last 4 years they've had the second most draft picks outside of the first round. So they do draft a lot. They just don't draft in the first round a lot. So people kind of freak out. But so let's just see. I think there's many ways to success. But let me go back to what I said earlier. The winning breeds winning. The Raiders are on a winning tear. We won. We're in the playoffs. It's nice to be back at that stage. We need to be back next year. It's not about being easy. It's about working hard. So let's just see where we go. And then other than that, let me know. I think one thing I want to talk about over the next few days or before the Super Bowl is what everyone's eating at the Super Bowl. We in the family haven't worked out what we're going to be cooking and eating and consuming. So I'm looking for hints and tips. I'll see you guys next week. So hopefully we get a couple of videos next week. I want to do a Rams one and I want to do a Bengals one. I'm 99.9% sure we're going to have a Bengals one because I've already spoke to the guys. So I'm just looking for Rams fans. So I will tweet out again, but Rams fans, UK Rams fans, or even US Rams fans, if you really want to, don't let me down. Or definitely don't then complain otherwise. And if you want to get on and talk about your team and highlight your podcast or what you write, in after the Super Bowl to talk about the draft and free agency, then please do get in touch. I will welcome any contribution from anybody. So again, I'd like to say thank you to everyone. This is Sports Hub Video. Don't forget sportshubvideo.com for a range of sports. New content going on all the time. But we are Sports Hub Video's American football channel. On Twitter, we are at SHV_NFL. It doesn't mean we're only NFL, but it was the easiest one to get. So I bid you all farewell. Have a really great weekend. Keep it relaxed. Super Bowl. And I'll give you my prediction next week.